South Korea has entered another tense chapter in its political and legal history as the trial of ousted former President Yoon Suk-yeol officially begins. Yoon, once a powerful figure who rose to prominence through his background as a prosecutor, now faces charges tied to his controversial attempt to impose martial law during a period of political and civil unrest. The case, which has captured nationwide and international attention, is being described as one of the most consequential legal proceedings in South Korea since the impeachment of former President Park Geun-hye in 2017. Background of the case: Yoon Suk-yeol was elected to the presidency on promises of restoring order, strengthening national security, and reforming institutions. However, his administration quickly became embroiled in fierce political battles with opposition lawmakers and growing public dissatisfaction over economic hardship, labor disputes, and allegations of authoritarian decision-making. The crisis reached its peak when Yoon allegedly moved to declare martial law in response to escalating protests and parliamentary resistance to his key policies. Critics claim the attempt was not only unconstitutional but also a deliberate power grab aimed at silencing dissent. While the military leadership refused to carry out the order, the political fallout was immediate and severe. Parliament swiftly passed a motion to impeach Yoon, and the Constitutional Court upheld his removal, ending his presidency prematurely. Charges against Yoon: the charges in the new trial focus on abuse of power, violation of constitutional duty, and attempted subversion of democratic order. Prosecutors allege that Yoon's martial law decree would have suspended civil rights, placed the country under military control, and dismantled the balance of powers that has been the cornerstone of South Korea's democracy since the end of military dictatorship in the late 1980s. Additional counts include accusations of pressuring the armed forces to bypass constitutional checks and unlawfully monitoring opposition leaders. Yoon has denied wrongdoing, arguing that his actions were driven by a genuine need to protect national security against internal chaos and external threats. His defense team insists that the order never materialized into implementation, making the charges politically motivated. Political and social repercussions: the trial has polarized South Korean society. Supporters of Yoon argue that the case is a continuation of partisan revenge by liberal and progressive forces, who had long opposed his presidency. They warn that punishing Yoon too harshly may discourage future leaders from taking decisive action in times of crisis. On the other hand, civil society groups, academics, and human rights advocates see the trial as a crucial moment for defending South Korea's fragile democratic institutions. To them, allowing an attempted martial law declaration to go unpunished would send a dangerous signal to future leaders that constitutional limits can be ignored. International attention: South Korea's allies and regional observers are closely monitoring the proceedings. The trial comes at a time when Northeast Asia faces increasing security challenges from North Korea's advancing weapons program and shifting great power competition between the United States and China. Analysts note that a prolonged legal and political crisis in Seoul could undermine South Korea's role as a stable democratic partner in the region. What lies ahead? The court proceedings are expected to last several months, with testimony from senior military officials, opposition lawmakers, and constitutional experts. If convicted, Yoon could face a lengthy prison sentence and be barred from public office permanently. However, if acquitted, he may attempt a political comeback, though public trust in him remains deeply fractured. For South Korea, the stakes go beyond one man's fate. The trial is a test of how resilient the country's democratic institutions remain in the face of executive overreach. It also serves as a reminder of the lingering shadow of authoritarian rule, which South Korea has worked for decades to overcome. As the trial begins, the world watches to see whether South Korea will reaffirm its commitment to democracy and rule of law, or whether bitter political divisions will once again shake the foundations of its governance.